Hi, welcome to this video about Substance 3D Painter Beta 12.1. This beta version features Skew Painting and Baking, Auto-Rebake, OpenPBR, and the new Hard Surface Unwrap mode. This video will specifically focus on the Skew Baking and the Auto-Rebake. Now, before we get into that, let's take a quick look where you can find and access this beta first. First option is on Creative Cloud Desktop. From home, if you go to Apps and then click on Beta at the top here, scroll down, you should see the Substance 3D Painter Beta. Just click Install and it should install it. The good thing about using this method is that you can keep both the old and the newer beta version at the same time. The other option is to use Steam. So if I go to Steam, go to your library, find Substance 3D Painter, right-click, go to Properties, and find the Game Versions and Betas. You should see that under the default public version, there's a 12.1 beta. Click that and it should start installing instantly. Keep in mind that if you do it on Steam, you replace your current version with the beta version. You cannot have two versions at the same time. Very, very important to state as well is that we do not recommend that you use this beta for any serious production work. See it as a test only. Files that you open and save in the beta cannot be opened in the older versions. Things might change and there might be general instability. See this testing only. Now, let's get into this and take a look what the Skew Baking and Auto-Rebake is about. I have a file open here, and this is a fairly low poly file, just to show you. It's a radio that has a very low poly mesh wireframe. To get started with this, let's go into the baking mode. And we have to fulfill a few requirements first before we can start using the Skew Baking. The first one is we have to load a high poly. So I'm going to open this here, load my high poly, and see it has been placed in here. Now, I don't even have to do an initial bake, but just to make it go a bit quicker, I'm going to turn off everything except the normal map because that is where Skew is the most visible. And I'm going to click Bake Selected Textures. I'm also going to turn off the high poly mesh and cage wireframe so we see things a bit better. And then we'll take a look at the actual problem that's happening here. So because this is such a low poly mesh, you see we're getting very strong skewing artifacts, such as here at the bottom or here. Because of the way the rays are traced, the bakes come out very distorted and not the most representative of the actual high poly mesh that we have here. Skew baking and skew painting is here to fix that for you. So how do you use it exactly? Well, you scroll down in the common settings and you find the skew correction, or you can also use this little tab at the top. Click it to jump down immediately to skew correction. You click on Paint Skew Correction and you enter into a new mode. You can now paint inside the baking mode and paint these skew correction errors out. So for example, if we find this one at the bottom here, I'm going to reduce the size of my brush just a little bit. Paint. You see that it rebakes and my skew problem has been solved. Let's do that again. And what you see at the same time happening is that these red wires that represent the bake directions are also modified. The red ones are the old average normal directions, while the green ones are a specific corrected version where the rays are traced in the correct direction. So at the same time, you might not have noticed, but it's automatically rebaking as well. So every time I finish a stroke, the project rebakes and I see the update here. This is a new feature we've added as well to pair together with the skew mapping. And if you look closely to the common settings that we have over here, a few things have changed. There are 3 new icons in here, and the Auto-Rebake is this last one. Keep in mind, these icons are going to change. We're actually in the process of designing new ones. So in a later version, these will not be the same. The last one means that Auto-Rebake is active. That means that this specific mesh map will be rebaked as soon as a change is detected. It toggles automatically when you enter skew painting mode, but if you turn it off, then you have to manually trigger a bake, right? So I paint here, I have to click Bake Selected Textures to do a baking in. It's actually much easier if you keep it on. Performance-wise, some remarks. This is on a MacBook M3 and it's set to 2K size. It's actually fairly responsive because it's baking a single map and it does an optimization, but it only bakes the changed area. But let me just increase the subsampling a bit to show you how fast that responds. First bake is a bit slower, obviously. So right now, if I paint some more here, you see that it's a bit slower with by 4 subsampling. A trick if you want this to be faster is you can go down to the brush projection and set it from tangent wrap to UV, and you should get much faster responses as well. Right? See, it's almost instant when you do it that way. Now, painting is nice. That's one thing, right? So you could go over and manually find all the corrected areas, but it takes a bit of time. It gives you the control, but it takes a bit of time. So there might be other methods that you want to use for this. So specifically, what you can do instead is you can use some of the familiar painting tools. Well, the first one is the eraser, which is obviously a simple one. You just erase your painted areas, the ones that are marked in blue. But you can also use the polygon fill tool. So if I click on polygon fill, I can actually fill entire polygons with white. So the color picker at the top here shows you what color you're picking. It's the same polygon fill tool as in painting mode. And this area here, if I click it, it gets rebaked, and you see that it's much quicker than painting these out manually. Now, if you're experienced with skew maps, if I turn off the wireframe here, I go and leave the skew painting mode. This might give you some seams. If you look closely here, you're seeing seams. That is because when you're painting skew maps, you want to avoid painting over edges. And if you're using a polygon fill, that's a fairly blunt tool. You don't have control over specific edges. That's why we've added a new option to help you, edge protection. If you turn this on, it enables a new extra mask that protects your edges. By default, it's fairly big, but if I reduce the distance, so let me just make that quite a bit smaller, something like that, you see that automatically the edges are protected. And this means that you can actually work fairly quick if you just turn on the, if you use the polygon fill tool to select whole areas, and you never have to worry about painting over edges. In theory, you could even select your entire mesh with the polygon fill tool and just have everything filled like that. Might work in some cases, might not in others. Then maybe just a little focus on some of these other buttons here. We've added a few extra ones. Let me exit Skew Painting. The first button is to show mesh maps quickly. So if you want to just see your normal map, you click that icon and it toggles to the mesh mode. It's the exact same as using this drop down here. It's just a faster access. These are not baked, so they won't work, but you can only have one active at a time. And the other button next to that, the one in between the seeing the mesh map and Auto-Rebake, is a quick single rebake. So say I would turn everything on now because I've corrected my skew. I'm going to turn off thickness. I'll bake my selected textures. And if I go into ID and I decide that I want to use something different here, say I want to use submesh, I don't want to rebake everything and I don't want to toggle these states. I could just simply click this single bake icon to do a quick rebake of just that map. It means that you don't have to use the checkboxes on this button here. You can just quickly bake an individual map here when it is visible. That's about it for the Auto-Rebake and the skew correction. There's not that much more to say about it. Maybe the last thing that I could point out is in skew mode, under skew vectors, you can actually control the length and the density of these vectors. If you get very close, they might be very dense, so you can reduce their density. You can increase the length, and you can also play with the opacity. If you don't want them, you just set the opacity down to 0. There's not that much more to it. We are looking for feedback on this. So you can actually make use of our Discord channel or the Adobe community forums to tell us what you think about this release and help us shape the feature before we go for the final release. Thanks and have fun with this feature. Let us know what you think.